Hello and welcome. This is Martin with My IELTS Tutor. I want to thank you for joining me today. Such a pleasure having you here. Today we're going to talk about something really important that you need to consider for your letters for General Writing Task 1. This is a really important aspect of the letter that you need to consider and include and get correct, actually. You need to get this correct. I've talked about this before, and I will continue talking about it through future lessons. So really take this to heart, okay? And what I'm talking about is tone. Tone is very important for your letter, and you need to consider it very carefully. This is because, first of all, it is considered by the examiner in terms of task achievement. For the criteria of task achievement, that's where tone is considered. They want you to match the correct tone. The tone should be accurate for the context of the letter, for the purpose of what you're writing the letter to, for whom you're writing it to. Now, tone indicates the relationship, the important relationship between the writer, that's you, and the recipient, the reader, who's going to receive the letter ultimately. So, now let's take a closer look at tone itself. Now, you see this kind of triangular shape, how tone is affected. Tone is affected by the recipient and purpose. So this means that we determine the tone based on who's receiving it and what the purpose of the tone is. So keep that in mind. That's a very important point. Now, there are three types of tone, and I'm going to get into these in a little bit and describe them. Now, our three types of tone are informal or personal, semi-formal, and formal. So those are the three types of tone. Now, for informal or personal tone, this is for relationships that involve a family member or close personal friends. And that's it. Those type of relationships. You don't want to write an informal letter to your boss, for example, or to your landlord. And the situations for informal letters could be invitations, a newsletter. A newsletter is basically a letter telling about, say, your vacation. Announcements such as wedding announcements or birth announcements and other social situations. Now, for semi-formal, the relationship would be for family members, close friends, colleagues, co-workers. Now, the situations could be for apologies. Now, if you want to write an apology to a family member, you probably won't want to take an informal tone, but you might want to be a little bit formal, okay? Same thing with certain requests, such as asking for a loan. You might want to be a little bit formal. If it's something that's, if you want to borrow an item, say, some type of tool or something, or ask for a recipe. You could be personal, but certain requests such as like loans and such, you might want to consider writing semi-formal. Formal announcements, again, such as like weddings and births. You might want to take a semi-formal approach rather than personal. And then work or health-related issues. So work, there might be an issue that you write a letter to a colleague, or it could be a health-related issue. Maybe you're talking about someone in your family. You're writing a letter to someone in your family, telling them about an illness that another family member has, for instance. Now, let's look at formal. Here, formal relationships refer to any person of authority. This could be a supervisor, a landlord, a government official, it could be a business manager. manager of a store manager, things of that nature. Or it's someone you don't personally know. So you don't. So you want to be formal in this. So the situations could be about any serious situation, such as a request, complaint, application, resignation, anything that's kind of a serious nature. You want to have a formal tone. And again, it's always with someone with authority over you, or someone you don't know, that you want to have that formal tone. If it's a serious situation and it's someone it's a family member, or maybe a colleague, or a close friend, then you probably want to go semi-formal. So that's formal tone for you. Now, one thing for tone that we have to consider for tone is grammar. Now, informal and semi-formal tone, you should use contractions, and you can use contractions. It's okay to use contractions such as I can't, she won't, we haven't, and things like that. But for formal, grammar use in formal, we don't want to use any contractions at all. So it would be something like I cannot, she will not, they have not. So remember this. Informal and semi-formal, use contractions. It's okay to use contractions, but formal, don't use contractions. Now, another aspect is greetings. When you write your letter, you have to greet the person. So a formal letter will generally start off with dear. So dear sir, dear madam. We could say dear Mr. or Mrs. Roberts. We could say the full name with the title, such as dear Mrs. Samantha Roberts, for example. We could say dear, or we could just leave it to the full name only, dear Kenneth Henderson. Or we could say dear Dr. Smith, or dear Dr. Robert Smith, for example. So now semi-formal and informal would be dear and maybe the first name only, such as dear John. Informal, we would have these following greetings Mandy could be informal, but it can also be semi-formal too. So hi Rachel, greetings Mandy, hello Pete. Those are generally informal, but again, greetings Mandy could be, if you say greetings Mandy or whoever it might be, that could be semi-formal too. Greetings is generally a little bit more formal than saying hi or hello. So, or hey. So that's hey Roger. That could be an informal greeting. So keep that in mind. That's another important aspect of tone that you need to be correct on. Now, closing statements. Closing statements, what they are, this is a single sentence that kind of wraps up the letter. And it's always at the end, and it's usually one sentence. It could be two. But it is basically the final sentence of your letter. And so we have some examples here, for formal examples. I look forward to your timely reply. Please consider my request. Thank you for your consideration. So those are examples of formal closing statements. For informal or semi-formal, we could say, I look forward to hearing from you. Or, give my best to your family. And finally, I look forward to seeing you. So those are both formal and semi-formal examples. Signing off, another important aspect of tone that you need to get correct. So for formal letters, we have these two phrases, yours faithfully, yours sincerely. Now, yours faithfully, I think really these depend on the relationship you have with the person. So For instance, yours faithfully you could use with a family member or close friend, or say maybe your supervisor, okay? But yours sincerely I would use with everyone else. And then this, you would also use this especially say when you want to make a request or a complaint. And then for informal and semi-formal letters, you could simply say take care, all the best, wishing you success, see you soon. So those are examples for informal and semi-formal. Now remember, and this is again, remember that tone is affected by the recipient and purpose of the letter. And this of course means that they determine the tone. The person who receives the letter and the purpose of the letter. So, but the key thing is you have to decide which tone is appropriate. And there is an appropriate tone. It's up to you to decide. It's up to you to figure out. So that's it for today's lesson. I want to thank you for joining me. So, again, it's a pleasure having you, and I look forward to seeing you soon, and I'll see you guys next time. You guys take care.